Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, so you just spun up a new Linux server. Awesome. But now what? That first hour is absolutely critical for security. It can feel a little overwhelming, right? Well, don't worry. We're going to walk through a simple, step-by-step roadmap to lock that system down and turn that uncertainty into some real confidence. So you've got Linux installed and you're probably thinking, hey, I'm good to go. It's Linux, it's secure by default, right? It's not Windows after all. And look, you're not totally wrong. Linux does have some amazing security features built in, like how it separates what different users can do. But, and this is a big but, having a strong foundation isn't the same thing as having a fortress. Let's take a quick look at what's actually out there. The thing is, attackers are actively going after Linux servers. I'm talking about nasty stuff like ransomware that locks up all your files, or crypto coin miners that sneak onto your system and just hog your CPU to make money for someone else. And here's the kicker. A ton of these breaches aren't because of some super genius hacker. Nope, it's usually just because a server was left with its default wide open, please hack me settings. So that's the main takeaway right there. A standard out-of-the-box setup is basically an insecure setup. We gotta fix that. And we're gonna do it the right way, starting with building a safe little lab environment where you can practice and mess around without, breaking anything important. Okay, for this, we're gonna use something called a virtual machine. You can think of it as a computer inside your computer. It's totally sandboxed, which makes it the perfect place to learn and experiment without any risk to your actual machine. It's super simple. First, you'll grab VirtualBox, then download a server image, something like Ubuntu Server or CentOS is perfect. Create a new virtual machine, give it about 20 gigs of space to start, and then just fire it up. You'll install Linux just like you would on a real physical computer. All right, this next part is one of the very first and most critical security decisions you're going to make, so pay close attention. When you're installing, you'll create your normal, everyday user account. Now, if you're using Ubuntu, it's cool. It automatically gives this user admin rights. But if you're on CentOS, you have to do it yourself. You have to explicitly check the box that says, make this user administrator. Seriously, don't skip this. That one little click is the key to pretty much everything else we're going to do. Okay, so you've got your admin user set up. Now we get to tackle the single biggest, most common security mistake that beginners make, logging in as root. Just don't. Think of the root user as God mode for the entire system. It has unlimited power. Using it for your daily work is like juggling chainsaws. One tiny slip up, one wrong command, and boom, your entire system can be toast. And you can see the difference right here. On the one hand, you have the dangerous root login. It gives you that absolute system-wide power where a simple typo can literally delete your entire operating system. No joke. But on the other hand, you have the much, much safer sudo command. This is like borrowing that power for just one specific task. It's temporary, it's targeted, and this is super important. Everything you do is logged under your username. So there's always a record. Now here is a pro tip you absolutely need to remember. The file that controls all this sudo stuff is called sudoers, and you should never, ever, ever open it with a normal text editor. Why? Because if you make one tiny syntax error and save it, you could lock yourself out of all admin privileges, permanently. Instead, you always use the command sudo vsudo. It's a special editor that checks your work for errors before it saves. It will literally save you from a catastrophic mistake. All right, so you've double-checked that your regular user can use sudo. Perfect. Now, it's time for a huge security win. We're going to lock the root account down completely. With one single command, sudo passwl root, you basically disable the root user's password. This makes it impossible for anyone, especially an attacker, to log in directly as root. Just like that, you've removed the biggest, most valuable target from your server. Okay, so we've locked things down inside the system. But what about people trying to get in from the outside? Well, your server's digital front door is a service called SSH, or Secure Shell. By default, that door is protected by a password. And passwords, well, they're not great. So we're going to upgrade that lock to something way more secure. Think about it. Passwords can be guessed. They can be stolen. They can be brute forced by bots. So you know what we're going to do? We're getting rid of them. Completely. Instead, we're going to use cryptographic keys. It's like swapping out your normal front door key for one that's 1,000,000 characters long and only your computer knows the combination. Here's how it works. First, on your own local machine, you'll run SSH keygen to create a key pair, a public one, which is the lock, and a private one, which is the key. Then you use a handy command, SSH copy ID, to put the lock on your server. And then, for the grand finale, you go onto the server and edit one file to turn off password logins for good. From that point on, the only way in is with your private key.
And here's a quick but super important thing to remember about Linux. When you change a configuration file, the change doesn't happen right away. You have to tell the service to reread its settings. So after you've disabled passwords, you must run this command, sudo systemcontrol restart sshd. If you forget this step, you've done all that work for nothing, and your server is still vulnerable to password attacks. Don't forget it. Awesome. Your server is now worlds more secure than it was an hour ago. You've disabled root, you've hardened remote access. That's fantastic. But, and you knew there was a but coming, security isn't a set it and forget it kind of deal. It's a process. And probably the most important part of that process is simply keeping your software updated. And I'm not just saying that. Security experts will tell you this over and over. You hear about these massive data breaches in the news, right? You think they were caused by some incredibly sophisticated, brand new hack. But a lot of the time, the truth is a lot simpler. A vulnerability was found, the good guys released a patch for it, and the system administrator just never got around to installing it. It's kind of tragic, because that means most of these bug-related breaches are totally preventable. The good news is applying these updates is super easy. The command you use will depend a little on what flavor of Linux you're running. If you're on something like Debian or Ubuntu, you'll be using apt. If you're on the Red Hat side of things, like with CentOS, it'll be yum, or its newer cousin, DNF. The commands look a little different, but the idea is exactly the same. Run them regularly, and you'll keep your system patched against all the latest known threats.
So, in less than an hour, you've really done some amazing work. You've taken these first critical steps to harden your Linux system and built a solid foundation. This is enough to protect you from the most common low-hanging fruit type of attacks. But as you can probably guess, the security journey doesn't stop here. If what we just did was building the high, strong walls of our fortress, the next stage is all about adding the guards, the watchtowers, and the surveillance systems. We're talking about things like setting up a firewall to control who and what can even talk to your server, using tools like Audity to keep a detailed log of everything that happens, and then diving into really powerful stuff like SE Linux or AppArmor, which put super strict rules on what even normal programs are allowed to do. So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that security isn't a finish line you cross. It's a process. It's a constant cycle of updating, checking your logs, and always learning. What you've done in this first hour is build an incredibly solid foundation, and now you have a roadmap for what comes next. You're ready to continue that journey and keep your system safe. The only question is, what's the next step you're going to take?